So the first reports are out, Allen, from Niner-Raider joint practices, and a lot of mixed results. There are stats about Brock Purdy. Did he throw a pick? Did he not throw a pick? And really, maybe the most troubling report is that the best quarterback on the field was in silver and black, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, Jimmy. And I have some of this, and again, take them with a grain of salt, but Matt Mayoko has Brock Purdy passing 11 of 16, all with the first team. Trey Lance, 6 of 12. Sam Darnold, 1 of 3. And Brandon Allen didn't attempt a pass. So,
yeah. Not great. Cam Inman joins us at 3:15. We will get his takeaways from joint practice today on an overcast day in the desert. The Jimmy G era underway in silver and black. And we'll get into the Mike Silver piece here coming up in a minute as well. But I want to ask Niner fans, 888-957-9570. Mark Grandy, our technical director, had a great question. If Jimmy Garoppolo was the best quarterback on the field today, and that's what many people are reporting, how much of a gut punch is that to 49er fans, knowing that Brock and Sam and Trey all were lesser than Jimmy Garoppolo today?
It depends how much you care about joint practices, right? And of course, when that's all you have, you're going to care about it a decent bit, but I wouldn't get too worried about it. I mean, this is the closest thing we've been able to see to a real game, and then you'll have preseason where Kyle Shanahan says time and time again he likes joint practices more than preseason games, and Brock, we don't know when he's even going to play in a preseason game, so I don't think there's any worry to panic right now. Nobody wants to be joint practice champs, right? You want to be Super Bowl champs. So I'm not worried about it. It probably was a little bit surprising to see because I will say this, it just tells me the difference between training camp and these joint practices and seeing somebody with another jersey on, because Brock Purdy, everything I saw about Brock Purdy for the most part in training camp was that the offense has been humming. That's what it is humming. And it did not seem to be humming today.
Yeah, and if it's not humming in joint practices where it's all scripted and it's all controlled and organized, what does that mean for the preseason opener on Sunday? And if we get into the regular season and Brock Purdy is not the answer, what does it mean to the 49ers if Brock Purdy turns out to not be that good, Allen?
Well, it would mean that they are going to start paying more attention. Not that they're not paying attention, but it goes back to Trey or even Sam Darnold. Here's the question, Dibs. At what point will we know? Right? I mean, at what point will we know? The reason I'm not too worried about Brock, I'm not worried about Brock Purdy not being good. I just not sure how good he will be. Brock Purdy seems to be a guy who, and these were reports out of when he came out of college as well, Brock Purdy never changed from freshman year, right? Which is a good thing and a not so good thing. Brock Purdy was the same guy at Iowa State from freshman year through senior year, and probably who he is now, because his ceiling has never been that high. That's not that great, but his basement has never been that low, which in an offense like Kyle Shanahan's isn't a bad thing. So from what we saw with Brock Purdy, and he's only 23, he can continue to get stronger, continue to learn the game. But in terms of, we know he's not the guy with the highest ceiling, but the good thing is he's also not the guy with the lowest basement. So I don't think he will ever be terrible, right? I don't think he'll ever be unplayable. The question is he going to be good enough to be a franchise guy? And when you get into duels with that of a Jalen Hurts in the NFC, and really, I don't even, the good thing you're in the NFC, I don't know. I mean, Derek Carr, the NFC is just kind of But then once you get to the AFC, whether that's during the regular season to take down a team, or if you are good enough to get to the Super Bowl, can you outduel whoever comes out of that battle in the AFC? That's the question. He's not going to be terrible. Brock Purdy's not going to be terrible.
Not going to be terrible, but if he is like Rebel4444 on the YouTube feed says Brock is mid, which mid, I guess, is short, you kids would say, for mediocre.
Yeah.
He's in the middle.
He's a 7? Would that be a mid?
I think a 6 would be.
6 feels low. 6 feels low for
on a scale
Brock.
of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
To me, mid would be a 6.
What I saw from Brock last year, last season.
He was an 8.5.
Yeah, that was not a 6.
No.
That was not a 6.
But if Brock is mid, if Brock is mediocre, and this from the 510 on the Xfinity Mobile text line, Brock Purdy isn't that good. I know. I watched him 4 years in college. He is not that guy. Let's say that Brock Purdy's not even as good as he was last year at the end of the season when he came on and was an absolute tour de force. Can the Niners still win if Brock Purdy is just mid? 888-957-9570. Can Brock Purdy be mediocre and this team still go on and make it deep into the postseason?
Yes, they can. Because, and someone's going to think this is a Jimmy shot, Jimmy was around mediocre too. But everybody thought from what we've seen that Brock Purdy is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, or can be a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. But here, this is what is so interesting, Dibs. It all comes back to the picks that were made, the draft picks that were made, and what are your expectations. The bottom line is, and people think that you're taking a shot when you talk about Brock, you can be better than Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard and still not be a franchise guy.
Right.
So every time we talk about, even better than Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And again, no scouting report. What are teams gonna see with Brock in this next coming season? So just because Brock looked really good last year and looked better than other quarterbacks that we've seen in this offense, that still doesn't make him an elite quarterback. He might be, but we have no clue. So that is why when you look at Brock, if you take Brock level QBs, right? And I'm still trying, is that Kirk Cousins? Are they in the same category? A Kirk Cousins-esque guy?
Right.
Guys like that with the weapons that the Niners have and Kyle Shanahan calling plays. And you see that the success that they've had. It makes sense, right? But that is why there are typically more Brock Purdys in a draft and more Brock Purdys that are hanging around, whether they're low-level starters or backup guys, than you see, and that is why they took the chance, even if it didn't make sense, on Trey Lance, because that's an opportunity to unlock something. You might have had the wrong key,
right,
but you tried to unlock something. You can find Brock Purdy-esque players more easily, and then when you put them in an offense like that, and I know people are going to say it's disrespectful, and I get it, but even Nick Mullins didn't have Christian McCaffrey, and I'm not putting them in the same category. Do not get me wrong. I'm just saying that it is very hard to evaluate Brock Purdy because of this offense. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, if you look at the weapons that he has and the weapons that he's been able to throw to, it certainly helps him as opposed to, what Trey Lance had when Trey Lance didn't have Christian McCaffrey early in the year. By the time Brock Purdy got on the scene, McCaffrey was already here, and he took that offense and raised it to a whole nother level. Can the Niners win if Brock Purdy is mediocre? 888-957-9570. Gabe is in Livermore, and he wants to talk QBs. What's going on, Gabe? Gabe, you there? Gabe, did we lose you? Gone. We did lose Gabe.
Literally a click, I heard.
Yeah, that was probably our click saying goodbye. I'm just looking at Brock Purdy in terms of his stats last year, yards per game. That way I think that's a fair way to look at, how we compare Brock Purdy to other quarterbacks of his ilk, because he played 3 games that count on his yards per game stats on NFL.com, but those are games he didn't start. But when he did start, he went on to throw for 1,308 yards over the course of 6 games. So basically about 220 per game. And if you look at other quarterbacks who passed for 220 a game on the average, you're dealing with, quarterbacks, I think, where you could look at him and say, maybe he's of that same caliber. Aaron Rodgers, 217 a game. Jimmy Garoppolo, 221. Matthew Stafford, 232. Derek Carr, Russell Wilson. These are all quarterbacks who passed for about the same amount of yards per game.
Right.
If Brock Purdy is as good as those guys were last year, is that good enough for them to go out and win games this year?
Yes, because you're still talking about what were they projected, the Niners, as the 4th best defense, assuming they get back Nick Bosa. So yes, I do think that he would be good enough to get it done. I'm just looking here, Dibs, and I hate to do it, but if you do look at Brock Purdy versus Jimmy Garoppolo, just specifically last year, it is a lot closer than people think. But again, the one thing I will give over Brock, which is a big deal, would be his elusiveness in the pocket and his ability to extend plays. That is something that we didn't see with Jimmy. After the injury, Jimmy just didn't look like the same guy. So you give that edge to Brock with a bit more moxie than Jimmy has, then you got a shot. You got a shot. Now, again, is that your franchise guy? I think it could be with this offense. When you get down to different contracts with the offense and the defense and you start to lose pieces of this roster, basically what I'm saying is if you're going to win with Brock Purdy, you should probably win now because I don't know how much longer you're going to have a roster this complete.
Right.
Every team's window for their picture-perfect roster doesn't last. And when you have somebody like Tyreek Hill who leaves the Chiefs, okay, well, you have Patrick Mahomes, you're going to be okay at Andy Reid. If you have whoever, they're not going to be on the same team forever. All these guys, you're going to most likely see a drop-off from Brock. So the whole window thing is a very interesting question. When you have somebody like Brock, it's much different to when you have someone who is much more clearly a franchise guy.
And much more higher paid, though. And that's I
true.
think, to your point about the way this window looks. This window is so open because your quarterback's making $900,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't have to allocate that much money. Even if you add in Darnold and Trey Lance, you're still well below what most teams are paying for their QB1. Right. So you're allowed to have McCaffrey and Debo and Trent Williams and Bosa, whose contract really, the big money will kick in next year. But Fred Warner's got a big deal, and Charvarius Ward Mooney has got a big contract. So you could surround your QB who's making peanuts with all these other guys because he's making what he's making. So the question is, can you win with a mediocre Brock Purdy? 888-957-9570. Ed's in Pleasanton. What's going on, Ed? You are on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, yeah, thanks for taking the call, guys. Yeah, I think I was just going to echo what I feel like the consensus sentiment is that I've been hearing is that obviously with an elite quarterback on that team, the Niners will be a runaway favorite for the league. So what we're hearing now from the league experts and from the pundits is that the Niners are in the top echelon of potential teams, not knowing the quality of the quarterback. So my take is if Purdy can be kind of what he was last year and not make mistakes, which is the key thing, not give away the games, he could be just as good as we thought the Niners would be with Garoppolo, and maybe better given his ability to scramble and showing some of the skills that he showed last year. So yes, I think the answer is yes. The Niners are definitely in the running with a mediocre Brock Purdy. And I'll take your comments off the air. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. You'll take them on the air because I'm not doing off the air, and we're doing radio till 6. And so, Ed, you're taking them on the air, whether you like it or not.
My question is to you, Dibs, and thanks
That's
for the
what you
call,
get, Ed. Yeah, thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
You get them on the air, Ed. That's it.
Do we know what a mediocre Brock Purdy is? Because I'm looking right here at his stats from last year. They're compared to Jimmy, just in case anybody was curious. Brock Purdy's yards per attempt, 8.1. Jimmy Garoppolo's 7.9. Brock Purdy's touchdowns, 13. Jimmy Garoppolo, 16. They have Jimmy at 11 games. Obviously, he left one of them. You have Brock Purdy at 9 games. So besides that, and Brock was sacked only 11 times to Jimmy's 18. So I'm looking here, and if we say, that's the question, Dibs, we don't know, will the real Brock Purdy please stand up?
Please stand up. Please stand up. That's Eminem.
Are you going to? I was going to say, are you going to fight this one?
No.
And you gave in, of course you did.
Yeah, it's Marshall Mathers. Yeah.
If Brock Purdy,
he's from Detroit, Alan.
Yeah, he is. If Brock Purdy,
8 Mile.
Yep, great film.
Yeah.
If Brock Purdy,
Thanks. If
that was who he is last year, which really is, like we said, a slightly better version of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
If that is his ceiling, then the Niners can win the whole thing. But if mediocre means there's going to be a drop off from these stats, from a 67% completion percentage, again, 8.1 yards per attempt, 13 TDs. If there's going to be a drop off from that, then I don't know. If that was mediocre Brock Purdy last season, then okay, you really got something. But if that was really, really good Brock Purdy, then I don't know that you can win with a mediocre Brock Purdy.
What if that's the real Brock Purdy? And I won't do the please stand up bit again because we already did it, and I can tell that you're annoyed by it, so I won't revisit it. But Brock Purdy last year was, he was Brock Purdy. Mm-hmm. If he plays like that again, is that good enough to win a Super Bowl? We've got a poll on the YouTube page. Is Brock Purdy good enough to win a Super Bowl with this 49ers team? Go on to YouTube/957 The Game. Like and subscribe. You can check out Alan Stiles flashing a little bit of gun show here. With the biceps are popping over there in the beat camera. I'll be honest.
Normally I get made fun of, so this is actually one of my looser shirts.
I think you should always wear a tight shirt. Wear as tight a shirt as you feel like you're comfortable in, because you'll get to a point, and again, I hate to be like Alan Stiles' crystal ball, but there will be a time where things gravity starts to win out
I hear you.
In certain areas. So while we're young and swole and looking good, you need to milk it.
All right. Because we'll do.
This is your time.
I'll go super schmedium tomorrow. Don't you worry.
Absolute schmedium. I'm demanding a schmedium. I'm wearing a 2X.
Yeah.
I'm like wearing a tent over here.
I hear you.
I'm trying to cover all areas. Brock Purdy last year, he was good. Mm-hmm. He was really good. And, the points per game, the Niners averaged about 30 a game when he quarterbacked. And if you look at QB rating, which I think is a little bit of a curious stat, he was at 107.3 for his time as the 49er quarterback, which was 10th among all quarterbacks. And if you count just actual quarterbacks who started games, he was number one. He was better than Tonga Vailoa. He was better than Patty Mahomes in terms of QB rating. So even if Patrick Mahomes plays a little worse than he did last year, is that good enough? Lori is in Phoenix, and she wants to weigh in on mediocre Purdy here on 95.7 The Game. What's up, Lori?
Hey, guys. So I do think that, first of all, I don't think Purdy's mediocre. What he did off the bench last year as a rookie, I don't care how good the team is. You have to have something. That wasn't just luck. I'm tired of hearing he had CMC, he had this. Sure, that's great. But he still went out and put up the numbers. He made the throws. So, will he be as good this next year with the injury? Well, that remains to be seen. But I do think this team, the reason this team is going to lose, I don't think it's going to be because of the quarterback. It's if they can't stay healthy. If they lose guys like Trent Williams and they end up losing, we've already had how many just little hiccups today in camp. So if they can stay mostly healthy and they can get themselves in some decent seating, so maybe they could either get a bye week or home field advantage, I think this team has a good a chance as anybody to make it all the way. I don't think obviously Brock's going to do something, but you still have Trey Lance and you've got Sam Darnold. So we think you've got other quarterbacks that you can throw in there if something happens, and I think you can still win with all three. But I definitely don't. I don't see quarterback being the position that holds us back this year.
Yeah, thank you, Lori. That's kind of the boat that I've been in terms of them being able to win with a quarterback other than Brock Purdy, or if Brock Purdy is mediocre. I think that there's enough around Brock Purdy to where you can still be competitive as long as you don't lose any of the big boys that Lori was talking about.
Oh, that's exactly right. But that then goes back to the conversation of being an elite quarterback, which they don't grow on trees, right? And Brock Purdy might be an elite quarterback. We don't know. I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he is. I don't know yet. I haven't seen enough. I'm still the same guy who wants to see more from Jalen Hurts. So, don't come down my road on that. I'm just saying, okay, if somebody does go down, whether if Kittle goes down, right? And we hope he doesn't. And technically he is down, but we hope it's more precautionary. That was Brock Purdy's guy, right? That was one of Brock Purdy's guys. So if let's say he didn't have George Kittle for a certain number of games, what would he look like then? We don't know. All we know is we know what Brock Purdy looks like. And I believe, did Debo miss some games last year? I think Debo missed some games with Purdy, so he didn't have Debo he didn't have the full offense for every single game. So there is that, but we also know who he tends to like to go to more. So in a picture perfect world where everything is working as it should, I like Brock Purdy. We don't know what happens to Brock Purdy if Christian McCaffrey goes down for a couple weeks, or if Debo, or like I said, George Kittle goes down for a couple weeks. That's all I'm saying. That's what we don't know.